Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Sky Striker Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for post the June 2023 ban list. We got multi-roll and engage released off of a couple numbers from the ban list. Engage down to 2 and multi-roll to 3. Meaning an update I would say is definitely due for the Sky Striker deck. We got some new support back during Magnificent Mavens as well, adding to the overall playstyle, and we do have some other new cards coming out for the Sky Striker deck, some new main deck monsters as well, so maybe we'll see another update for the deck in the near future, depending on when we get those cards. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters for the Sky Striker engine. We're running 3 copies of Sky Striker Ace. It's your go-to monster, being able to tribute this card with a quick effect to special summon 1 Sky Striker Ace monster from your extra deck to the extra monster zone. And while it's in your graveyard, if a face-up Sky Striker Ace Link monster is destroyed by battle or leaves the field because of my opponent's card effect, you can special summon this card, just giving you a resource to then again go into one of your Link 1 Sky Striker Ace monsters using your Ray on the field. We also run the 2 copies of Sky Striker Ace Rosé. With this card, if a Sky Striker Ace monster is normal or special summon except Sky Striker Ace Rosé, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if an opponent's monster in the extra monster zone is destroyed by battle or leaves the field because of your card effect, well, this card's in the graveyard, you can special summon this card, then you can negate the effects of one face-up monster your opponent controls till the end of this turn. So having Rosé gives you access to going into your Link 2 Sky Striker Ace Zeke on the field, still being able to keep any of your monsters in the main monster zone, because you can use it with Ray and Rosé to then summon out your Link 2 boss monster also. The last of the Sky Striker monsters we run is the 1 copy of Surgical Striker Hamp. It's always treated as a Sky Striker card, and if you control a Sky Striker Ace monster, you can special summon this card from your hand to either field by tributing 1 monster from that field. You can only special summon Surgical Striker Hamp once per turn this way, and when it's destroyed by battle, you can target 1 card your opponent controls and destroy it. So just another way to kind of get over some pesky cards that your opponent may have as well. You really only need the 1 copy of this card. It does always count as a Sky Striker card, making it more searchable with some of your other cards, being able to add it with the more increased number Sky Striker Mobilize Engage now in the deck as well. And for the rest of the monster lineup, we're running 3 copies of Ash Blossom and 3 copies of Drone Lockbird, just for the hand trap numbers. We do have a pretty small monster count in the deck for our main engine. We are relying on our spells for the good majority of our setup in the deck, with the last of the hand traps just being 3 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, just to kind of combat some of the other cards still, manifesting in the meta for cards like Pirelli and Super Heavy Samurais, for any of those that still try to, resolve any of their effects, whether it be the Pirelli continuous spell or the Wakashi for Super Heavy Samurais. Moving on now to the spells, which are the good majority of the cards that we run in the deck. We're running 3 copies of Sky Striker Mobilize Linkage. If you control no monsters in your main monster zone, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn. After this card resolves, except for Sky Striker Ace monsters, also send 1 other card you control to the graveyard. And if you do, special summon 1 Sky Striker Ace monster from your extra deck to the extra monster zone. And if you have at least 1 light or 1 dark Sky Striker Ace monster on your field or in your graveyard, the summoned monster gains 1,000 attacks. So you have that attack boost, the quick play power to summon out a different Sky Striker monster as well, as long as you control no monsters in your main monster zone, which is the main majority of what this deck is supposed to do, just being able to change out your Sky Striker for the preferred card by using this quick play. Back at 3 now off the list, we're running 3 copies of Sky Striker Modules, multi-roll. This card just gives you more recycle power for your Sky Striker spells, being able to set different named ones from your graveyard up to the number of Sky Striker spells you activated this turn, so you can replenish your back row as well, and then banish them when they leave the field, but also just being able to target another card you control and send that card to the graveyard, and your opponent cannot activate card or effects in response to your spells activated for the rest of this turn as well. It's that setup and recycle power that this card was put to 1 for, just giving you not as big of a recycle chance for your Sky Strikers, but a better chance to see this. And if your opponent does destroy your multi-roll or, banish it from the field, you have more of a search power to at least rely on the 2 other copies we now have in the deck as well. For the last of the 3 ofs, we also run the 3 copies of Sky Striker Mecha Widow Anchor. If you control no monsters in your main monster zone, target 1 face-up effect monster on the field, negate that monster's effect until the end of the turn. Then if you have 3 or more spells in your graveyard, you can take control of that monster until the end phase. Getting another resource from your opponent. One of our big finisher cards in the deck is Access Code Talker, so you need more resources from your opponent that you can take thanks to your Widow Anchor to at least be able to go into this bigger boss monster to then use to banish all the many different attribute link monsters you have in the graveyard to then attack with this card after you've cleared out your opponent's field. And now at 2, we're running 2 copies of Sky Striker Mobilize Engage. With this card, if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, add 1 Sky Striker card from your deck to your hand, except for Engage. Then you have 3 more cards in your spell and graveyard. You can draw 1 card. So having that graveyard set up, but now just the extra chance to add an additional Engage is very, very useful for the reset power that multi-role can provide, but then being able to have that card be banished, you at least have the last other Engage to be able to add to your hand as well, and then have that draw power when you have other spells set up in your graveyard. For some of the lower 1 of numbers for the Sky Striker cards, 1 copy of Sky Striker Mecha Shark Cannon, 1 copy of Jamming Waves, and 1 copy of Afterburners. For the monster destruction, the spell and trap destruction, and then the additional banish of a card in your opponent's graveyard with Shark Cannon, just all disruptor cards that we run in the deck, along with some other 1-ofs being the 1 Eagle Booster, the 1 Airspace Area 0 for more search power, and the 1 Hornet Drones for the token play that this card can provide as well, and then having 3 more in your graveyard. When the effect resolves, the token's attack and defense become double. Not as, they become 1500, not double, because double of 0 is, not anything at all. But still, more 1-ofs for the search power that the 2 Engage just helps to provide with. We really relied on Area 0 for a big number of cards, but now that multi-roll and Engage are back up to higher numbers, we just have more search and recycle consistency for this card also. For more of the generic spells that we run in the deck, the 1 copy of Reinforcements in the Army, since our Sky Striker monsters are Warrior type, and then also the 1 Upstart Goblin for setting up more spells in our graveyard while still getting draw power, and the 1 Metal Foes Fusion for the recycle draw power while still being able to set up a spell in our graveyard, with the last spell counts just being 2 Foolish Burial Goods, depending on what spell we may want to set up in the graveyard. If you don't go for a Sky Striker 1, you can always just send the Metal Foes Fusion to the graveyard to then shuffle back and redraw, with the last of the cards in the deck being just our trap lineup, 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence for the additional monster effect negation, going up against our opponent with the other hand traps that we run as well. Moving on now to the extra deck, we're running 3 copies of the Fire Attribute Sky Striker Ace Kagari. If this card is special summon, you can target 1 Sky Striker spell in your graveyard, add it to your hand, and it gains 100 attack for each spell in your graveyard. You can only special summon Ace Kagari once per turn, but a great way just to recycle our Engage back to our hand as well, using this card for the search power and then the additional attack boost for each spell in your graveyard. So the more you set up, the stronger this card will also become. And 3 copies of Sky Striker Ace Shizuku. With this card, monsters your opponent control lose 100 attack and defense for each spell in your graveyard once per turn during the end phase. If this card is special summon this turn, you can add 1 Sky Striker spell from your deck to your hand with a different name from the cards in your graveyard. So additional search depending on for all the 1-ofs that we run as well. If there's one specific one you need, you can at least add it to your hand with Sky Striker Ace Shizuku. I have 1 copy of Kaina and 1 copy of Hayate. If you want to increase the numbers of these cards, you can take out some of the generic link monsters that I run for additional copies of these cards, and also the 2 copies of Sky Striker Zeke. This can also be another potential spot to drop Zeke down to 1 and increase either the copies of Hayate or Kaina up to additional numbers with this card being removed. It must be link summoned. You can only special summon Zeke once per turn. If it's link summoned, you can target 1 face-up monster on the field, banish it until your opponent's next end phase, and once per turn you can target 1 other card you control and it gains 1000 attack, then send the targeted card to the graveyard. So you have the additional attack boost for this card, and then just taking out that other card for this card's attack boost that it gained, with the rest of the link monsters just being the 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, along with 1 Access Code Talker and the 1 Apollosa Bow of the Goddess. The Access Code Talker being the big boss monster that we go into most of the time as the final play you'll use against your opponent as well. And then as for some of the go-to plays that we run in the deck, the main setup with this deck is just set up and stall for your opponent to then go into the play required. With the multi-role recycle power, the big part of it, like I said, just comes down to you opening up and setting up the Ray, then going for the additional search if you had cards like your Sky Striker Engage, giving you that additional search, the draw just being an additional bonus on top of Engage as well. So that card being able to add your Ray to your hand can then set up the Engage in your graveyard, you normal summon out the Ray, and then go for the link summon of your go-to Sky Striker Ace Kagari. Kagari can then add the Engage back to your hand. Engage isn't a once per turn as well, so you can activate this card, getting an additional search for another Sky Striker card. You can go for the Sky Striker Mobilized Linkage, and then with this card being activated, control no monsters in your main monster zone. You cannot special summon from the extra deck this turn as well. Sending one other card you control to the graveyard to special summon one Sky Striker Ace monster from your extra deck to the extra monster zone, so you can send the Kagari, getting the additional setup for the Shizuku, and then at the end of the turn, you can use the multi-roll, setting up the Engage, the Linkage, and then having the end phase Shizuku search, depending on what card you want to use against your opponent, whether it be the Widow Anchor or any of the other destructions cards. This is just a small example of what you can do with the deck. There's a lot more combo heavy depending on what spells you open up, but a lot of it just comes down to what spells you utilize and then getting the additional bonus cards for those Sky Striker cards to then use against your opponents. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Like I said, it was just a quick little update for those of you looking at this deck for a potential one to play with the new cards off the ban list for it. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Twig out.